Okay, for notes 3.3, equations with variables on both sides, we're going to look at, remember the last lesson we talked about how an equation is like a scale, so there are two sides to it. We have the left side over here and the right side over here, and we're going to go through and talk about how to balance them, but solving for the equation. You'll notice number 1 and number 2 are the same. I'm going to show you that it doesn't matter which way you choose to solve it, it will still be correct. So for the first part, how I normally have my students solve it is by moving the variables first and making the variables positive. So you need to see, is the variable positive, is it larger on the left or is it larger on the right? Number 1, it's larger on the right. 6m is larger than 2m. So we're going to subtract 2m from both sides. Once I do that, it's gone on the left-hand side, and all we have on the left-hand side is negative 2. But now on the right-hand side, we have 4m minus 4. Now we need to move the constants. Remember that constants are the numbers that do not have a variable attached. So to make negative 4 0, we have to add 4 to both sides. So it's gone on the right-hand side. What we have left is 4m on the right-hand side and positive 2 on the left-hand side. To finish solving, for m, we divide 4 because opposite of multiply is divide. We reduce 2/4 down to 1/2. So 1/2 equals m. If we were to do the same type of problem, but start with the constants, here's how it would look. Again, you want to move the one that will make it positive. So negative 2 is larger than negative 4, so we're going to move the negative 4. So we're going to add 4 to both sides. And now I have 2m plus 2 equals 6m. We're going to subtract 2m from both sides. 2 equals 4m. This should look familiar by now because it's the same as before. So 1/2 equals m. You could choose to rewrite those as m equals 1/2. It's the same thing. All right, number 3. If I have both sides to my scale and we're going to move the variable first, I'm going to add 1/6 n to both sides. So it's gone on the left side, and we have 15 equals. Remember, when you add fractions, if the denominator is the same, you just combine the numerator. So 2/6 n minus 1. Now we're going to move the constant, so add 1. And we're left with 16 equals 2/6 n. Now to get rid of a fraction, to make this 1n, because that's what we're doing every time. Up above in number 1, the reason why we divide by 4 is because 4 divided by 4 is 1m. So instead of just m, you could write 1m. So to get n for number 3, you want it to be the same number in the numerator as it is in the denominator. So we're going to multiply both sides by 6/2. You multiply by the reciprocal. So what that really means is 16 times 6 divided by 2. So 16 times 6 is 96, divided by 2 is 48. So n equals 48. And the last one, we're going to subtract 4w from both sides. So 5w plus 3 equals negative 9. Remember that subtraction sign does carry down to make it negative. Subtract 3 from both sides. 5w equals negative 12. And the last step, because it's 5w, that means 5 times w. You do the opposite, so we divide. So w equals negative 12 over 5. We cannot reduce the 12 and 5, so it stays 12 over 5, and we keep it improper. So w equals negative 12 over 5. All right, for 3.4 multi-step equations, so there are some steps to solving multi-step equations. The first thing you want to do is if there is something like in number 1 where there's the parentheses, you need to distribute. So the first thing we're going to do is distribute. So let's do that first. Let's distribute. So 5 times x is 5x plus 5 times 3 is 15. We don't distribute the 5 to the 3x because the 3x is not in the parenthesis. So now we're just going to write everything else down. The next thing that you will do is you will combine like terms. So on the left-hand side, 5x and 3x are like terms. We combine them since they're both positive. It becomes 8x plus 15. And on the right side, 2x and positive 3x becomes 5x minus 12. Number 3 says get the blank on one side and blank on the other. So get the variable on one side and the constant on the other. So we're going to subtract 5x from each side, and we get 3x plus 15 equals negative 12. Remember that subtraction sign needs to carry down to be negative. Now we're going to get the constant on one side. So now we have 3x equals negative 27. And the last part is solve for variable. So to solve for variable, 3 times x equals negative 27. So we do the opposite of multiply and we divide. So x equals negative 9. So looking at our rules, the first thing that we do is we need to distribute. So 1/2 times negative 4. Half of negative 4 is negative 2. And 1/2 of positive 6x, so half of positive 6x is positive 3x, equals 1/3 x plus 2/3 times x is 2/3 x, and 2/3 times 9. What that means is 2 times 9, which is 18, divided by 3 is 6. Next, we need to combine like terms. So on the left-hand side, we still have negative 2 plus 3x. But on the right-hand side, 1/3 x plus 2/3 x is 1x plus 6. The next step was get the constants to one side and variables to the other. So we're going to subtract 1x from each side. Negative 2 plus 2x equals 6. And we're going to add 2 to both sides. So 2x equals 8. And finally, we're going to solve. So we divide by 2, and x equals 4. Number 3, there is nothing to distribute, so we can skip that step. There's also, we do have a fraction here. You notice that this x is being divided by 10. So what we need to do is we need to multiply everything by 10. In order to get rid of the 1 divided by 10, we multiply everything by 10. So we are going to end up distributing to start with. So 10 times x is 10x. 10 times x, but then divided by 10 makes that 1x equals, and then 10 times 44 is 440. So we're still going to now combine like terms. So 10x and 1x makes 11x equals 440. And now we solve because we already have our variables on one side and our constants on the other. So divide both by 11, and 440 divided by 11 is 40. So x equals 40. Number 4, we start by drawing our line. We don't need to distribute anything, so we're going to skip to combining like terms. 3x minus 2x is 1x minus 1 equals negative 1.5. Then we need to get the constants to one side since our variable already is. So we're going to add 1 to both sides. So 1x equals negative 0.5, which is our answer. X equals negative 0.5. And last question. You'll see that you are dividing by 3 and dividing by 2, so we need to come up with common denominators. The common denominator for both of them is 6. So that means that I'm going to need to multiply 2/3 x by 2, and we need to multiply 2 plus x by 3. By doing so, 2x times 2 is 4x, and that is now over 6 minus. And 2 times 3 is 6, and x times 3 is 3x over 6 equals negative 4. Just like before, we want to multiply everything by the denominator to get to whole numbers instead of fractions. So we're going to multiply everything by 6. By multiplying 4x over 6 by 6, you're just going to end up with 4x. By multiplying 6 plus 3x by 6, we're going to end up with negative 6 plus 3x. And then by multiplying negative 4 by 6, we get negative 24. You'll notice that we have a negative sign out in front of the 6 plus 3x. So that's the same thing as distributing a negative 1. So I have 4x minus 6 minus 3x equals negative 24. We need to combine like terms. 4x minus 3x is 1x, or just x, minus 6 equals negative 24. We now need to get the constants to the same side, add 6 to both sides, and x equals negative 18.